Welcome to ecoMetals TV here at the Wire and Tube Fair in Düsseldorf. The guest we have now is Dr. Sebastian Kreft. He's the co-founder and managing director of Metalshub, which is described as a software or a platform for buying and selling materials, raw materials, ferroalloys, metals. Could you describe what it is and how it works?
Absolutely. So Metalshub is a software company. We started this business in 2017, coming from the industry, working more than 10 years in the raw materials industry. And our main solution is a procurement solution for raw materials. So all the raw materials that go into a steel mill, considering iron ore, coking coal, scrap, ferroalloys, graphite electrodes, lime, and so forth, where the requirements are very different compared to indirect materials, which steel companies also need to buy.
And it addresses buyers and sellers equally?
Yes, so our procurement solution, our customers are steel mills, such as Outokumpu, Saarstahl, GmbH Group, Lechstahlwerke, which use our software for buying raw materials. But then also we have what we call a sales solution. And this is used by mining companies. For example, Anglo American is using it. For example, now Albemarle, the largest lithium mining company, is using it to sell its products.
You once said that the future of the steel industry will depend quite a bit on the availability of sustainable raw materials. Now, what materials do you have in mind and where will we get them from?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So if you look at a steel company, and especially steel with a high alloy content, more than half of the carbon footprint of the finished product depends on the raw materials that go into it. So in the case of stainless steel, it's especially nickel. So if, and I think in Europe and the US, you want to produce stainless steel with a very low carbon footprint, it's a team sport. The supply chain needs to participate. So you need to look for suppliers with very low carbon footprint, which use renewable energy in the production of it. And it also depends on the production process.
Now that you mentioned nickel, I understand that nickel and chromium are responsible for more than half of the CO2 footprint of high alloy steels. And I mean, the automotive industry expects that their footprints are reduced. So isn't there a contradiction? How can it be achieved?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the steel industry needs to motivate their supply base to decarbonize because their customers, the car companies, they want to produce a car with very, very low carbon footprint. And steel and aluminium are, together with battery raw materials, the main contributor.
I understand that you're sourcing primary materials as well as scrap, right? I mean, could you comment on the role of scrap a bit?
Yes, for sure. So actually, we're not actually sourcing it, but we're providing the systems for our customer to source scrap. So in stainless steel in Europe, we are at 80 to 90% scrap content already, which means that the carbon footprint is very low. For carbon steel producers, it's changing now, moving to new production technologies with electric furnaces. Also, they can use a lot more scrap, and they need to lose a lot more scrap in their process. So scrap is a way to reduce the carbon footprint, but if we want to produce 2 billion tons of steel like we do now, there is not enough scrap. So of course we need to recycle, and we will recycle, and we are already recycling almost everything that's out there, and we can do a bit of a better job in sorting it and making sure that it's not contaminated by things like copper, but it will not solve the problem of how to produce 2 billion tons of steel in a sustainable way. So we also need to look at other things, like using iron ore, which is produced with a low carbon footprint and is then reduced in other technologies, for example, with green hydrogen, to be able to produce also steel coming from the mining primary raw material side.
I see. Dr. Sebastian Kreft, thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you very much.